Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the fourth and final round of the 2021 Rotax Max Euro Trophy season, being held here at the Pro-Kart Raceland circuit in Bavaria in Germany. And this coming Sunday will mark 150 days since the beginning of the season. Here this weekend we've got just over 100 drivers from 23 different nationalities. And this afternoon it is qualifying. We will have 6 sessions for respective categories: juniors, seniors, DD2, DD2 Masters, and also Project E20. 2 titles have already been secured this season, with 3 more still up for grabs. As over the next 2.5 days of competition, we will have the best part of just over 7 hours of racing action, including time qualifying this afternoon. And we have effectively the best part of nearly 30 races to crown our 2021 champions. But for those watching at home, thank you very much for joining us, as we have had some welcome news earlier on today that the Rotax Euro Golden Trophy, taking place at Karting Genk, will be happening between the 3rd and the 7th of November. And the entry banks are already open for that, and we are already into double digits before we've even gotten started. So we have a total of 25 different drivers in the junior Rotax ranks, representing 13 different nationalities here this weekend. And looking at the racing on finals days at Genk, Adria and Mulzen, it's been 1 win apiece for Tim Gerhards and Tom Braken. Kai Gielitz, the defending champion, took a double at Adria, but it was Great Britain's Ethan Jeff Hall that did the double at Mulzen in Eastern Germany back in July. So a 5-minute qualifying session will decide the respective grids for the heats tomorrow morning. So plenty of sunshine, air temperature currently 23 degrees Celsius. There is not really that much of a breeze unless you do go outdoors, but plenty of sunshine, perfect conditions for time qualifying, and also it looks to be a very sunny weekend all the way through until Sunday afternoon. So for those watching at home, the timetables have been posted on our relevant social media platforms, but it will be very shortly, in about 3 minutes' time. Junior Rotax, then we'll have 2 groups of seniors. The first one going out at 4 o'clock this afternoon, then 4:15. And 2 groups, because we've amalgamated DD2 and DD2 Masters. The first group will go out at 4:30. And then at 4:45, we'll have Group 2 with Project E20, closing out the qualifying show here this afternoon in Wackersdorf. So coming into the championship standings into this final round, Kai Gielitz leads the way on 106 points, followed by Bruno Mulders. Ethan Jeff Hall rounds out the top 3 on 80 points. Then it's the likes of Matthias Turlo and Thomas Strauver, who are currently on 74 and 66 points respectively. Then a little bit of a gap, 19 points down to Farin Mega, down in 6th position. So it's not over until the final checkered flag falls on final 2 come Sunday afternoon. So it has been a bit of an interesting season for all the drivers. It has not been easy in these difficult times, but rest assured we have been able to race at 4 fantastic circuits in 3 different countries over the course of this season. So the biggest representation in the junior Rotax class is from Germany. 5 drivers represented. 3 from the Netherlands, 3 from Belgium, 2 from Great Britain, as Vinnie Phillips joins Ethan Jeff Hall at Strawberry Racing. Slovenia have 2, as do Denmark and Austria. We do have other nations represented, such as Italy. We also have Danny Shields from the UAE. We also have 1 driver from Switzerland, 1 from Poland, Serbia, and also Finland are represented. So green flag waves for the first of 6 qualifying sessions here at Wackersdorf. So the drivers have to be out within the first 60 seconds of the session, otherwise the gates then get closed on the dummy grid. So the track and length, 1,190 metres, and over the 4 years that the Euro Trophy has been going, it has provided a fantastic technical, fast-flowing circuit with plenty of overtaking opportunities for drivers to really put the boots on the other foot, so to speak. So Thomas Strauber was one of the first drivers to get out in the 299 entry. Vinnie Phillips in the 287, followed by Nick Gerhards. So now they really start to push the envelope of adhesion. 4 minutes to go in the session. So next time around we will get a real indication of how fast this track has evolved over the course of the last 2.5 days. The drivers have been hard at work getting this setup correct, ready to go racing, and also to have that prime setup that's going to give them that all-around package that really does help them come on strong, and especially during the heats and the finals, that's where it matters the most. So Thomas Strauber will be the first one to cross the stripe and give us an indication as the youngster from Belgium in the 299 goes through the second of the hairpins at the far part of the circuit, and he comes around the final double right-hander. So Thomas Strauber will cross the line first, and it's a 50.635. Times quickly come in. Ethan Jeff Hall goes top of the timesheets, 50.507. Lukas Schlegel from Austria, one of the new entries for this weekend, up to P1. Renhofer, Rafael Renhofer, back to full fitness. Obviously, if anyone that might remember his incident in Adria, he still came back 3 weeks later and still raced. Bruno Molders goes up into P5 as Kai Rilets goes top of the timesheets by nearly 2.5 tenths of a second after his first flying lap in qualifying. So we're halfway through the session, and all results called on the commentary, on the live stream, and here at the circuit are provisional, pending any judicial and technical matters. Across the line go more drivers. Strauben goes up into second, 1/10.5. Then Alberto Kiko Fracassi, 7/100ths behind Kai Rilets as Rafael Renhofer goes to the top of the timesheets, 50.074 seconds. Marius Rose in 8th. Austin Lee rounds out the top 9 ahead of Austria's Lukas Schlegel. Had a brief chat with Danny Shields earlier on this week, and he said, I'm really enjoying the track. He said, I'm trying not to make any mistakes, but he really put the cat amongst the pigeons back at Adria, qualifying P3. And at the moment, the top 18, rounded out by Janis Diak in the 239 entry from Germany. They are covered by just under 0.7 of a second as we head into the last 90 seconds of the session. Slipstream's going to be crucial around here, but if you have also got clean air, that might help you. So Ethan Jeff Hall gets closer. Lukas Schlegel gets even closer to Rafael Renhofer, 5/1000ths of a second. As Nick Gerhards is right behind one of the other drivers out on the circuit. Looks to be the 272. Italy's Alberto Kiko Fracassi. So times are improving, and now Aljas Vidmar in the 212 is now 0.8 behind Renhofer, who has set the pace alight here in time qualification. But can anyone beat the German on the 233? Alberto Kiko Fracassi throws a right-hander into the ring. Matthijs Turlo goes top by 1/1000th of a second with 30 on the clock to go. Matthijs Turlo from the Netherlands, who currently sits P5 in the standings. Top 3 at the end of the championship will get an automatic invitation to the Rotax Max Challenge Grand Finals. 15 seconds on the clock, and Kai Rilets on cue has gone 8/1000ths of a second quicker and dips under the 50-second bracket. 49.996 seconds from the 274 from Belgium, who recently celebrated his 15th birthday. Austin Lee 5 days ago just turned 13. So checkered flag is out for the session. And the first driver to cross it is Thomas Strauver, who is down in 9th position. Bruno Mulders, wait to see where he factors in Lukas Schlegel, as Renhofer goes, well, nearly 6 100ths quicker than Kai Rilets, but Rilets needs to put in one hell of a lap to put it on provisional pole. And Rilets does the job by a considerable margin, nearly 2/10 at the end of that session. But Rilets takes provisional pole, puts him in the best position, the best foot forward, so to speak, with a 49.754 second lap time. And he pips Rafael Renhofer by just 0.185 of a second. Mathis Turlo in 3rd place on a 50.004. Then Germany's Farin Mega, Lukas Schlegel, Alberto Kiko Fracassi. Ethan Jeff Hall rounds out the top 7, covered by just over 3/10. Samuel Ifrid from Switzerland, actually being driver coached by Jan Schwitter this weekend, rounds out the top 8 ahead of Denmark's Mikkel Pedersen, with Janis Diak rounding out the top 10, covered by just over 4/10. Bruno Mulders in 11th, Thomas Strauver in 12th. They've got a little bit of work to do tomorrow from those positions, so they'll be right in the mid-pack. Nick Drobeck in 13th, ahead of Vic Stevens. Nick Gerhards completes the top 15 ahead of Austin Lee, Marius Roos, Louis Detling, Sam Argun, Vinnie Phillips, Aljaz Vidmar, Jimmy Kokelainen, and Danny Shields, who completes the 23 strong. So it looks like we have a couple of drivers not being able to attend this weekend, but Kai Rilets puts it on provisional pole for Junior Rotax tomorrow. So we have our first set of group qualifications, where we have 31 senior Rotax drivers that registered and are present for this event here at Wackersdorf. So they split them into 2 groups, both selected by random lottery draw. So 16 drivers will take part in session 1, and we do have a returnee, 2-time Rotax Max Challenge Euro Trophy Senior Rotax champion, and also, as of last week, back-to-back Prince Carl Philip Racing Pokal Senior Rotax winner Matilda Olsson returns. And in this group, we've got a couple of the drivers that are competing for the runner-up spots on the podium this season. So we have Sean Butcher, who is currently 5th in the standings. It is rather nip and tuck at the moment. 5th in the standings on 82 points. Lachlan Robinson, who was 3rd last year, currently in P3 at the moment, is on 86. But the biggest absentee is Belgium's Luca Leistra, who is 4th in the standings. But there is a drop score taken into consideration at the end of the championship. But Callum Bradshaw secured the title back at Mulsen with 2 second-place finishes. KR Sport did really bring a lot of firepower in terms of race pace, because Sean Butcher took final 1 at Mulsen, and Lachlan Robinson picked up his first Euro Trophy victory in the second race, despite in the first final having won on the road. Bradshaw has taken 2 wins at Adria, so literally did the double there. He's taken 4 second-place finishes, so brings him to 130 points. Mark Kimber, who qualified for the Grand Finals back in 2016 and actually won it back as a junior, is currently on 98 points. Robinson in P3, Leicester in P4, Butcher P5. Last year's RMC Germany champion, Linus Henson, is rounding out the top 6. So it is between Kimber, Robinson and Butcher for the final 2 steps on the rostrum. And I think one of the moments I will remember this season, reference the Euro Trophy, is that when we started free practice early in the week at Karting Genk, the track was cleared because we had snowfall, which has been a bit of a... Well, it was quite interesting because I heard that teams were telling drivers, no, you need to go out there. It's a wet track. Get out there, just get some laps in. And they may have been freezing themselves. Wetsuit, race suit. You're insulated, but to a point when you have to deal with winter-esque conditions, let's say. But the drivers have been really happy that they've had some solid running over the last 2.5 days. They've managed to get things fettled up to respective paces, and now is about where the real end of the journey for 2021 begins, because a lot of these drivers will be looking for pride at the end of the season, if they can get a win at the end of the year, whether it's a heat or whether it's even on finals day. Now, finals day is where it really counts the most, because there are big points on offer. And I think, as they do say, it isn't over until the final checkered flag falls on Sunday afternoon, and that will really give us an idea on what will happen. We've got a lot of racing, as I said earlier on, so the best part of well over 6.5 hours of competition on Heats Day tomorrow, and the last finals day of the season in 2021. Also, for those watching at home, Project E20 does return for its second and final outing. Just had a look. There's been a couple of penalties issued post-qualification, a couple of front fairings. So those two drivers will drop an additional 3 places, Marius Ros being one of them from Denmark, and Vidmar Aljaz in the 2-1-2 will respectively drop down 3 positions accordingly through front fairing penalties. And that's one of the disadvantages sometimes of being in the slipstream, because if you're in the tow of somebody else, you can sometimes get caught out a little bit unawares, and it can happen, but that's part of racing, and you pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and get going again. We've got just under 3 minutes to go until timed qualifying gets underway for our first of 2 senior Rotax groups, as everyone is getting themselves ready. Mechanics will be giving final instructions, drivers will be talking. Now, when it comes to drivers in respective camps, respective awnings, there will be a little bit of teamwork employed. I mean, the tow is quite important around here, especially coming out of the final corner and going into the chicane underneath the gantry, and then into the fast right-hand sweeper that brings them onto the far part of the circuit. And then you've got a 180-degree right-hand hairpin. And then it gets really, the body's sort of shaken from side to side as you go through the respective apexes. You're putting on the power as you're coming out of the corner. You're braking at the right point, trying not to bump into anyone in front of you. And that's where it can really make a difference. So it's all dependent on how you maximize your advantage possible over the course of the qualifying session. So, with regards to DD2 and DD2 Masters combined, I think, if memory serves me correctly, we're going to have 34 drivers, so they're going to split them evenly. So 17 drivers in one group, 17 in another. So in senior Rotax, the biggest representation this weekend is Austria with 6 drivers. We have got 4 from Great Britain here this weekend. So we've got Callum Bradshaw, we've got Mark Kimber, Sean Butcher, who is running under a UK licence but is of Australian origin, and also the returning Lewis Gilbert, who was able to take a final winner a couple of seasons ago when Olson took the title. And rest assured, that young Scotsman, who has been doing a lot of racing back over in the UK and has finally had the opportunity to come back over to continental Europe, he loves this track. there's going to be quite a few drivers that I think will add a little bit of spice to the mix. So the drivers now get their race helmets on, put their gloves on, zip up those race suits and get themselves seated and ready for what we will have over the next 5 minutes of qualifying. Green light has been given for senior Rotax qualifying Group 1, and one driver decides to bolt before everybody else and get out onto the circuit. So they have just 40 seconds to get themselves out of the pre-grid. So the driver out on the circuit is Daniel Keinreith from Austria, running on the Suddy kart. So now we get a few more drivers. Looks like the floodgates have opened at the dummy grid because they've got to quickly get out there and get up to full racing speed. Now, we've had it earlier on this season where drivers have been informed they need to go full pelt, that's full throttle, from the minute they come out of the pre-grid. And they've got to get up to speed quickly. So Gilles Chloé has also crossed the line. Miro Halika, Nick Cuppens, Mette Argun, Benedek Vida, Matilda Olsson, Lachlan Robinson, David Lackner, Felix Janssen. They are all out pretty much. I think there's a problem with Andrej Petrovic in the 320 as Keinreith comes across the line and puts in a 49.641. Expect that time to be smashed into oblivion over the next 3 minutes, because once these drivers get up to speed, it's going to be rapid fire full throttle qualifying. So Kane Rath is the only one that has set a benchmark, and that benchmark is a 49.641. Expect us to be in the 48s at the very, very least, but the aggregate will be based on who is fastest in the respective groups. So Ken Huth puts in a 49.982 and is pretty much flying solo, but everyone else is now trying to get into the slipstream, into the toe. 2 minutes and 10 to go. Mete Argun jumps up to second, but then Lachlan Robinson goes up into P3 now, was P1. Sean Butcher now responds and goes top of the timesheets with a 49.413 as one of the Dames racing carts. Might have been a little bit compromised. Might have been Gilles Chloé, who's actually down in 15th, but with the all 15 drivers covered by just over a second. And it is rather close at the top. Top four covered by just over a tenth and a half. Robinson secured pole position at this very circuit on his 17th birthday last year. And that driver has really developed over the course of the past season. But you can't factor out people like Matilda Olsson, was third in the inaugural championship back in 2018 and then did the double. One of two drivers that in Rotax Max Euro Trophy history have secured titles back to back. Butcher has gone quicker still, 49.358 seconds from the Aussie, based out of London, running under the UK flag. Runner-up in last year's championship. Rashid Ghanem, one of three drivers from the United Arab Emirates who have now decided to come on board. Lachlan Robinson has just made it very much apparent that if you want to race with some of the best in Rotax racing circles, you come to a championship like the Euro Trophy. So 35 seconds on the clock remaining. It's Butcher from Ghanem, Jansson, Robinson, Lackner, Canfaith. Olsson goes P3. 28 thousandths behind Rashid Ghanem, and Sean Butcher on that particular occasion puts in a 49.617. 15 seconds on the clock remain, and Butcher he's going to be hoping he's going to be the one setting the benchmark, because Group 2 could be just as crucial to how the heats get the respective groups, four of which, Groups A to D, timer hit zero, the checkered flag is being prepared on the start-finish line. So who is going to take the top time in Group 1 qualifying for Senior Rotax? We are about to find that out. Flag is out and Olsson takes P3. Robinson 5th. Jansson, Ghanem and Butcher takes provisional top time in the session with a 49.358. So that is the time for Group 2 to beat. And then you have Callum Bradshaw and Mark Kimber. Now Mark Kimber, this time last year, well, he made a one-off appearance in this championship. Didn't put it on pole, but he came through, won both races on the Sunday. So Butcher takes the session by 66 thousandths ahead of the UAE's Rashid Ghanem. The returning Matilda Olsson leads a Swedish 3-4 along with Felix Jansson in the 385. Lachlan Robinson rounds out the top 5, 0.212 adrift of Butcher's time in that session. David Lackner rounds out the top 6, a further 9 thousandths adrift. That's how close it can be in time qualifying. Daniel Kenrath in 7th, Zino Kovac, Benedek Vida and Francis Kluikanau rounds out the top 10. Nick Kuppens and Gilles Chloé round out the top 12, who were covered by just under 6.5 tenths, with Mete Argun, Miro Halika and Germany's Luca Köster rounding out the top 15, who were covered by just under 7.5 tenths, with unfortunately Andrei Petrovic not able to take part in the session, and will be classed at the back of the grid. But very shortly, in about 6 minutes' time, we're going to have our second group of qualifying, which will be for Senior Rotax. Green for Senior Rotax qualifying Group 2. The time to beat from Sean Butcher, a 49.358 second lap time around this 1.19 kilometre circuit. And the timer is starting to tick down. And again, the mind games start to unfold because no one has decided to go out first. And everyone's waiting. So as soon as one sets off, the rest will follow suit. But it looks like, one starts to move and then they all start to move, and Callum Bradshaw gets out first in the 3:58. As they're 2x2 coming out of the pre-grid, so everyone's got to get up to speed and everyone's trying to dodge, duck and weave like it's a boxing match out there, and then we're even only in qualifying, so this is going to be rather fast-paced. Drivers are jockeying for position. So Callum Bradshaw, followed by Mark Kimber and Lewis Gilbert. They're the top. They're the three that came out of the gates first. So we're going to find out, will Sean Butcher stay at the top of the timesheets after intermediate classification post-qualifying? That's the biggest question. So drivers making their way through the right-hand hairpin at turn 4, now into the tight infield section, which starts off with the 90 left through 5, into the next left at 6 for a triple right. So it's a bit of a reverse of what you'd find at Istanbul Park in Formula 1 back when the Turkish Grand Prix used to happen, as Lewis Gilbert makes his way past Mark Kimber, and Kimber is closely being followed by Linus Henson from Germany. And Kimber lets Henson get past. Now we're going to see the first benchmark. What does Callum Bradshaw put in first? A 49.608. Alexander Abkhazova, the sole Georgian in this field out of 101 drivers from 23 different nationalities this weekend, goes top. 49.579. That is 0.21. That's probably 0.21 0.211 of a second slower than Sean Butcher. But expect the track to evolve once again, because the more the rubber gets put down on the circuit, it's going to start coming to the drivers. And they're going to pick up speed, pick up traction going through the corners. Zomber Kovac rounds out the top 3. They're covered by 33 thousandths of a second. So Bradshaw back to the top of the timesheets, 49.5 seconds, 7.6. Ehad Turka from Buvin Power in the 3:47, now up into P4. And with the top 4 drivers covered by 66 thousandths of a second, with a minute and 20 on the clock to go. Sometimes qualifying isn't as important as you might think. If you're at the sharper end of the grid, that's going to help you. But with time qualifying, it has been the case some points this year where a driver has not qualified well, but the race pace has been something completely different, and we could see that here this weekend. 50 seconds on the clock remaining, and a good amount of consistency from Callum Bradshaw. 49.606, as we've had one driver pull into the pits. So Bradshaw leads the session, 3 1,000ths ahead of Alexander Abkhazova from Georgia, Zomber Kovac, Ehad Turka, Lewis Gilbert, Tobias Poschek, Linus Henson, Christian de Klein, Sam Bergstein, Tim Stipitz and Mark Kimber ran at the top 11, covered by just over 0.26 of a second. So timer about to hit 0. The checkered flag is being prepared to curtail the end of the session. Lewis Gilbert 5th in that session. Bradshaw crossed the timing beam, and he's still got a lap in hand. That could be rather useful for him. Lewis Gilbert was the first one to cross the stripe, so posts the 5th fastest time in that session. But Bradshaw is still at full pace. Ehad Turka takes 4th in that session ahead of Lewis Gilbert. Tobias Poschek rounds out the top 6. But Bradshaw could put a good lap in. He looks to be pretty much composed on this occasion, but is he going to go across the line? Because he crossed it with seconds to spare. And Bradshaw posts the fastest time, but Sean Butcher provisionally takes pole position for heat stay. So Bradshaw's time was a 49.576. And when I spoke to Sean Butcher the other day, he said, I said to him, "You never count yourself out, do you?" He said, "No, I don't." He said, "I'm just going to keep on pushing," and that's exactly what he's done in time qualifying. So the results of that session, Callum Bradshaw taking the top time by 3 1,000ths ahead of Alexander Abkazava. Zombor Kovac and Ehad Turka then followed that up with Lewis Gilbert, the top 5 covered by 2 1,000ths shy of a 1/10 of a second. That's how close it was. Tobias Poschek in 6th ahead of Linus Hensen. Christian de Klein from the Netherlands, Sam Bergstein also from the Netherlands, and Austria's Tim Stipitz rounds out the top 10, covered by 0.245 seconds. Mark Kimbrough down in 11th. Flint Schuring in 12th ahead of Alexander Scheiblecker. Jori Schoens and Jeri Kokalainen from Finland round out the 15 strong, covered by just under 6/10. So we will now move on to the first of 2 groups of DD2 and DD2 Masters. They have been amalgamated for time qualifying, so 17 drivers will be out in each respective session. So DD2, that's the title fight that really needs to be talked about this one. Now going into Mulzen, Matthias Lund had a bit of a weekend to forget back at Adria, but Peter Bezel, who is on the roll of honour, not as a previous champion, but placed 3rd back in 2019 behind Zander Schurblack, who took the title last year, and Jakob Bezel, who took the title that season. Last year, Zander Schurblack became a Euro Trophy champion, followed by last year's B&L Karting Series champion Glenn van Parijs, and Peter Bezel has actually taken 2 third places in the last 2 seasons and currently leads the standings on 107 points. The Flying Finn, Ville Villainen, has been rather getting better as the season has progressed. The Finnish driver in the 462 won both races at Mulzen. Matthias Lund has brought himself back into the title picture with 2 second places at both finals at Mulzen. So it was a welcome turn of run of events for RS competition. So a top 2 in both respective races. Matthias Lund actually started off really well. Got a first place at Genk. The other driver, Martin van Leuven, who decided to join the fray and really put the cat amongst the pigeons in the second race on Sunday at Genk. Wasn't really factored in Adria. Had a chat with Zander Schurblack earlier on this week, and he said, the grip's coming, there's been some sort of things that we've needed to iron out, but the speed's good. I'm really feeling happy, and you never know, I might be able to sort of fight back. Well, Zander Schurblack has got a 47-point deficit to Peter Bezel if he wants to try and claim a title for the second year in succession. Zander Schurblack actually took 2 B&L Karting Series titles in the DD2 class, one in 2018, one in 2019 before Glenn van Parijs beat him on the track in that particular championship. But there's quite a few other drivers that are quite strong in here. You've got current RMC Germany championship leader Tim Mika Metz from Dor Motorsport down in 9th. Runs very, very well at this track indeed. Hannes Morin, who joined us earlier on in the season, he also raced at Adria. Wasn't around at Mulsen. He's been a very, very busy young man, as the young Swede. He's one of one of several drivers this weekend doing double duty. Along with him will be Zenderua. You've also got Lauren Seifried, who rounds out the top 13 in the championship. Johan Andersson, who's also running under the Slovenian flag. Interesting, when I spoke with Johan Andersson earlier on this week, they've switched to Cosmic chassis, and he says it's a bit of a different proposition moving from one chassis to another. But he said, really enjoying the challenge, and that's what a driver likes these days. They like to be challenged, they like to be tested, and when their backs are up against the wall, that's when drivers thrive under pressure. And coming into DD2 Masters, well, it has been a pretty good season for France's Paul Louvot in the 564. 2 wins at Genk at the opening round of the season, 2 second places at Adria, and I was really, when you're crossing your fingers to have a run right up until the last finals day of the season, it was a bit of a disaster for Alessandro Glauser from FM Racing. Who was in the mix, was really, really on song, was really possibly going to give Paul Louvot a fight for the championship this year, but his season came undone rather spectacularly in terms of, when the cart's really on song and then all of a sudden something happens, you're literally you're swept under the carpet, like as if you don't exist. And it's a real shame for Alessandro Glauser, but what that does mean is that for the only category in the 4 years since the Euro Trophy has been competing under its current guise, the 4 champions are as follows. Slavomir Miransky from Wyżerkowski Motorsport back in 2018, when he didn't have the best sort of first few rounds of the season, but came firing back at the Wackersdorf season finale, and I still remember that massively when he celebrated at the top of the championship podium. Roberto Pajewski from Austria, the only driver from my memory, and I know it's pretty good because I've got a load of statistics in front of me. He is the only driver from the Euro Trophy over the last 3 seasons up until this year where we've had one driver that's gone on to win the grand finals, and I was there to see it in person, that Roberto Pajewski won the Rotax Max Challenge Grand Finals title at Sarno in Italy in late October. Last year, Sebastian Humpelhardt was the champion from RS competition, and Paul Louvot now makes it 4 different nationalities and 4 different champions. And with the fact that we've now got so effectively, for those wondering about how many champions have represented nationalities, well, now you add Paul Louvot and Callum Bradshaw to that list, you now have 10 in total. So we're just over a minute away from our first session for these. Typical, I always get distracted. Dave Ritson, it's all your fault. But yeah, don't forget, there's plenty of news that we've broken this week. We've broken news about the 2022 Rotax Max Challenge Euro Trophy calendar, which will kickstart, and I'm really pleased that we're going to be heading back to Andalusia, to Malaga. Well, just off Malaga, we're going to be heading back to Circuito Karting Campillos for the Winter Cup, which will be run as a national event, and the dates for that will be the 18th to the 20th of February 2022. Then we return to the Home of Champions to start the racing in earnest, the 22nd to the 24th of April. Adria becomes the second round on the calendar, 27th to the 29th of May. And then we have a new venue. We're going to be returning to Belgium for the second time in one respective season, because Karting Defagne in Marienborg will host round 3 between the 8th and the 10th of July. And then September the 16th to the 18th, we return here to Pro Kart Raceland. And also don't forget, entries are open for the Rotax Euro Golden Trophy, being hosted between the 3rd and the 7th of November, where we have grand finals tickets up for grabs. And we also have free race weekend entries to be won at the Home of Champions. So entries are open. We're over 15 entries, and we haven't really opened the order books that long ago. Okay. Time qualifying for Group 1 for DD2 and DD2 Masters is now underway. So they're all out within the first 50 seconds of the 5 minutes allocated per session. So Vili-Viljalainen out first, ahead of Leo Karschenbauer with Zenderua, rounding out the 3 drivers that have come out. Dennis Valentis Toom from Cyprus. I know what actual nationality he is, but good to see. Well, that's the first ever time that Cyprus has been actually represented in the Euro Trophies history. We have had Greece with DJ Liveris in years past, who's currently now studying over in the USA. And his last competitive race for a while was actually the Rotax Max Challenge International Trophy at Le Mans in the last week of July this year. So times now being set, as in outlaps. I had a real good chat with Luca Minoretto earlier on this weekend, and he normally runs on a Birart chassis. He says that the brakes on the Tony kart that he's now running, he's running with KMD, so that's under the same stable of the likes of Bruno Dos Santos, who's out in this session. So Luca Minoretto running on a Tony kart. He said basically I was given a deal I couldn't refuse, and so here I am. He ran in Project E20 last time out at Mulzen, wearing his customary Godfather Stefano d'Asti race suit tribute, which has got the full old Dicky bow on it, and I've seen a race suit like that, well, without the Godfather logos on it, courtesy of Christoph Adams. So Vili-Viljalainen leading the top of the times. Michael Becker, always one to watch in DD2 Masters. He's currently 6th in the standings on 40 points, having taken 2 second places behind Paul Louveau at Mulzen. Philipp Moitzi from Austria, from KRT, goes provisional top of the timesheets. So 2 minutes to go. And Moitzi leads the way, leading in DD2 Masters. Michael Becker running out the top 10 on a 49.527. So a couple of drivers will be told that their transponders need charging, low batteries. Philipp Moitzi from Austria leads the way. Estonia's Ragnar Virus in second. Vili-Viljalainen, Zana Schrimbach, the reigning and defending champion, followed closely by Luca Minoretto, and the top 5 covered by just under a quarter of a second. Patrick Slokmelis from Latvia now jumps into P5. And Becker at the moment is 25 thousandths of a second quicker than Alessandro Glauser from Switzerland. And then round that up with another 18 thousandths of a second between Glauser and Bruno Dos Santos from France. Imke Arts from the Netherlands rounds out the 17 strong in this class, in this first of 2 qualifying groups. A minute and 12 left on the clock remaining. And Ragnar Virus is the first one to break under the 49 second bracket, but Philipp Moitzi is not too far off doing that himself. And they're absolutely hurtling their way through every single corner on the 1.19 kilometre circuit. Bruno Dos Santos does not improve. Alessandro Klauser sets a personal best of a 49.5, but it's not enough to get past Michael Becker. Ragnar Virus again puts in a 49.1, so pretty good running time from the Estonian in terms of qualifying pace. Lukas Horsman from Germany from Nies Racing rounds out the top 5. And is 16 thousandths behind Zana Schrimbach, who's now gotten into the top 4. Just under 30 seconds left on the clock to go. And it's all to play for. And these drivers will set the pace for the second group, and they will have to be on their A game if they're going to put that hot lap in that's really going to put them at the top end of the order. So checkered flag will be prepared on the start-finish line here at Wackersdorf. And Glauser again improves and goes to within 6 1,000ths. So it looks like Michael Becker might have a fight on his hands here in quali. Checkered flag out. Long Seifried, 9th in the session ahead of Matthias Lund, who's had a bit of a disaster. The Dane, who is in contention for the overall title, finds himself on the back foot. Imke Arts will round out the top, round out the 17, but Ragnar Virus at the moment is currently holding the top time. Michael Becker by 6/1000ths of a second holds on. He's yet to cross the stripe because Alessandro Glauser gave the German something to think about in that session. So Schriblak 4th in the session on a 49.2 dead, nearly 2.5 of a second behind. They're all crossing the stripe right now. Thomas Schumacher rounds out the top 16 and is actually 5th. So we'll have 2 more DD2 Masters drivers in that, but Ragnar Virus takes the top time of 48.955 in that session. And then looking at DD2, it's Michael Becker with a 49.477 respectively. So Ragnar Virus takes the session. Austria's Philip Moitzi in second. Willi Villainen rounds out the top 3. Zana Schriblak in 4th ahead of Germany's Lukas Horstmann. Patrick Slock-Mellis, Luca Monoretto, Zenderua, Long Seifried, and Matthias Lund ran at the top 10 ahead of Austria's Leo Kirschenbauer. Michael Becker completes the top 12, but is first in DD2 Masters classification ahead of Alessandro Glauser, Bruno Dos Santos, Dennis Valentis-Thum, Thomas Schumacher, and Imke Arts. That is how it all finished provisionally in qualifying. So Virus has set a benchmark for those drivers in the next session to really try and push the envelope. And for the first time this season, I'm welcoming someone alongside me, someone who I had a chat with this morning. Ferdinand von Habsburg joins me. Good to have you with us. Thanks for flying by, so to speak. You've been getting behind the wheel today, behind the Project E20. It must be nice to... you haven't been here in years, have you?
No, like 8 years, I think it's been since I've been... I haven't actually calculated it, but it'll be something like that. And yeah, the place, let's say, either feels smaller or I've grown a bit, and I think it's probably more the second. But either way, it's really wicked to come back and experience go-karting again. It's something to be remembered and be reminded of how great it is.
Yeah, it definitely does test the old ribcage. I mean, you've just come off the back of a win in the LMP2 class at Le Mans with Charles Malesi and Robin Freins with Team WRT. You know, Vincent Voss has got a great team. You've raced with them in DTM. Which actually, fun enough, was I think the first time we met when you were running with our motorsport with the Swiss crew there with Dr. Florian Kalmelger, and you know to come back to grassroots, you know, where it all started for you. I mean, you know, DD2 must give you some fond memories from years past.
Yeah, it's the last. It's the only go-kart I actually still own from those days. All the others have gone, been and gone, and it's the only one that I still actually have somewhere. And I need to knock some dust off it again. It's in Brook on the Leiter somewhere for sure. But yeah, I think DD2 was cool. It was like the last kart I drove before I jumped into cars and raced at the grand finals with it and had an amazing time. We were quite quick there as well. I really enjoyed it, and well, it's a wicked category to get in, just in general. Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, let's look at driver standpoints now. Going into qualification, you know, you're sort of getting yourself into the zone. Your adrenaline's spiking through the roof. What is the main sort of key point? Obviously, yeah, we know that you don't want to be in the mid-pack. That's the first thing. You want to be at the sharp end of the grid. Everyone's going to be maximising everything. They'll have worked over it over the last 2.5 days just to sort of make everything in ship-shape and Bristol fashion, ready for quali and ready for racing over the next 2 days. How was it for you back in those days when you were running as a DD2 driver?
Well, I think quali actually has a lot more relevance than it does, let's say, at a 24-hour of Le Mans here. So being in the right group, being at the front of the pack in the race has such a big influence on your race results. So I guess you're going to be quite focused on that quali setup and making sure that you're super sharp, going to nail the lap. Yeah, for me, it's my favorite session always because it's not any other time of the weekend normally that you really get your track to yourself. Normally you try to find your own space, find your own groove, get the perfect tire window, drive it as light as possible, or you to the weight limit, so you're on the limit with everything. And yeah, it's so important to get your mind right for this. The pressure's going to be rising, as it should do, and then the guys that have spent more effort on the data, spent more time looking out, seeing what they can learn from other people, being humble enough to try new things throughout the week, I think will be the ones that to come through in the qualifying. It always does.
Yeah, very, very good points there, Ferdinand. Really appreciate that. I mean, when you look at it, when you're setting up for quali, you've then got a different approach with regards to the racing on heats day and then through to finals day. You've got to really sort of knuckle down and really get everything sort of, you want to iron out those kinks, iron out those wrinkles, and just make sure that the kart is flowing through the corners, that when you're putting the power down, it's applying it correctly, you're not overstepping the mark, you're not out-braking yourself. And we do know that through qualifying, if you get a front fairing penalty, that's something that can really throw you into the mid-packs, and you're sort of like thinking, I don't really want to be here.
Yeah. No, in the end, it's super intense. The drivers need to make sure that they are absolutely on point. Everything is perfect for the session, because it's a make or break session for your weekend most of the time. And it's often also where you can see someone that's a bit more special, a bit more, just really put in the effort, and you can see the difference between the drivers. Also, who spent more time on the materials to make sure that it's all perfect. Someone who's been focused throughout the week, being able to maintain composure, and not crack under pressure, as you like to say. And also taking it seriously, in a way, It's all good and important to have fun at a go-kart weekend, but in the end, this is part of your path. This is part of the rhythm that you need to get into. And you can see you need that perfect mixture of joy and fun, because that helps you out when you're driving and keeps your mind sharp or relaxed at the same time. But you need to have that sort of data analysis. We've all got the ability to look at data, look at the squiggly lines, and take your time to see what someone else might be doing. If you haven't got a teammate, make sure that you're looking at the track, see what they're doing. And it was so cool for me. I remember sometimes looking back, how many weekends I thought about, I really should have put more effort in that, would have affected my result. And now I can sit as an outsider, see, okay, I'm really learning something from looking. You can take so much away from it. And if you're just staring at your phone all weekend, you probably won't do too well in qualifying. So that's a hot tip from me.
Well put there. I mean, social media has become very much a day-to-day part of our lives. We've all got one of these portable mobile computers in our pockets, which really does, it can be, as you say, it can either be a help, but it can also be very much a hindrance if you're not focused. And I know some racing drivers who have a bit of a superstition that what they'll do is they'll give the phone to somebody else and go, right, you deal with it. I'm here to race. I want to concentrate on what I need to do. And even at this level of competition through karting, it's exactly the same mindset.
Well, I mean, for me in racing, karting is one of the highest levels of competition that you actually will encounter. So to say that, even in karting, no, especially in karting, you need to... There's so much distraction out there, and it's super easy to get lost with it. So the phone, it's all the devil is in the details. So you can use it in so many great tools, and it can be so helpful. But at a weekend like this, for me personally, I would try to stay away from it as much as possible. Sometimes you need something to distract you as well, something to get you out of the bubble, let's say. So on that end, it can be helpful, but. In the end, we do so many races as racing drivers that you have the opportunity to go through try different things. You've got to try different things. Maybe one weekend you say, you know what, I'm gonna limit my screen time. I'm gonna use it all the time. I'm not going to even bring it to the track. I'm just gonna let it be. It's always, everybody's different in that sense, and everybody's getting ready and sharp on the grid. You can see the. If I'm under the helmet, I would be smiling, all stressed out like crazy. But hopefully that they're smiling.
You'd be grinning like the Cheshire Cat from Alice in Wonderland on that one. Well, we are just under a minute away from timed qualifying for Group 2. So the respective times that have been set in the opening sessions: Ragnar Virus in DD2 with a 48.955 second lap time. Michael Becker in DD2 Masters 49.477. And the 17 drivers in the first session covered by just over 1.1 seconds. And actually, the closest gap was between Lucas Horstmann and Patrick Slok-Mellis for 5th and 6th in that session. That's how close qualifying can be. I've even seen it where drivers have actually managed to set exactly the same lap time, but the one that gets there first is the one that gets the position for benefit of doubt. So we do have wonderful Friday afternoon sunshine here in early September, and the green light has been given to the drivers, and we wait to see who blinks first, because we saw earlier on that the mind games do start, and when you are battling for championships, that's when you have to really think about what you're concentrating on. Your A game, nobody else's. You're just concentrating on your race, and if it pays off and you're the one sitting on the standing on the top step at the end of the championship podium come the end of the season, that's where you'd know you've done exactly the right thing. And this is quite funny, because these drivers will always do that. Daniel Mahacek, who recently qualified for the grand finals courtesy of the Rotax Max International Trophy at Le Mans, is getting some welcome seat time in. So he's the one to venture out first, but has quickly been passed by one of the Door Motorsport carts. Looks to be the 454, and that, if memory serves me correctly, that will be Dennis Thiem. So Door Motorsport also have, they work closely with McLaren, and they also have an esports team as well. So we're just waiting for the last couple of drivers, it looks like. So Jakub and Peter Bezel, both brothers, both from the Czech Republic. And Austria's Nico Jörg is the 17th and final driver to come out of the pre-grid. So instantly up to full speed here at Wackersdorf. We have Project T20 as our last session of timed qualifying practice here at Wackersdorf for the final round, the fourth and final exciting installment of the 2021 Rotax Max Euro Trophy season. And this time around we will get some initial banker laps in. So let's see if someone like maybe Daniel Mahacek, Hannes Morin, who took the 2018 Senior Rotax crown at this very circuit 4 years ago, let's see if he can do something about it. We do have two DD2 Masters drivers, both representing France. The newly crowned champion back at Mulsanne, Paul Louveau in the 564, running on the red speed chassis. Mahacek goes in and gets to within just over half a second of Ragnar Virus, but then Mark Bartels puts in a 49.313 second lap time on the Kart Republic chassis, the 488 from Germany. Mika Metz rounds out the top six now as the brothers Bezel go to the top of the timesheets. It's Petter followed by Jakub, with Petter running in a 49.189, so that's just over 2/10 to find in the next 2.25 minutes. And Paul Louveau already is within a tenth of Michael Becker. Michael Becker set a 49.477. Louveau's on a 49.556. And Daniel Mahacek goes up into fifth place as Mika Metz goes up into P2. 5/1000 shy of Peter Bezel, so splits the two Czech Republic drivers. So Jakub took the title back in 2019. And Florian Breitenbach now jumps to the top of the timesheets by just 9/1000ths of a second, 49.168. Time is fast not on their side. The slipstream is going to be crucial around here, especially coming out of the final corner and going into the fast right-hander past the chicane and underneath the gantry. So 1 minute and 15 to go. Is anyone going to beat Ragnar Virus' time of a 48.955? Paul Louveau has a little bit of work to do. He just did a 49.7. Hannes Morin jumps up into P6. Leon Arndt now into 10th. As just waiting for the likes of Jakub Bezel, Peter Bezel and Florian Breitenbach. It is 21/1000ths. Well, looks like it's a little bit more than that, because Florian Breitenbach has got to within 0.15 of a second off of Ragnar Virus from Estonia. So they'll have, if they cross the line just before the timer strikes zero, they will have another flying lap to absolutely maximise what they can throughout the circuit. And Hannes Morin looks to be gearing up for a bit of a run going through the double right-hander. He's slotted back into position. Mahacek not improving, but he will have another flying lap to get his best opportunity possible. But at the moment, the times in the first group still stand as the quickest so far. And that will prove to be crucial. Check it is out for the session. Peter Bezel, P3. Florian Breitenbach first. Christophe Capitan crosses the line in 15th position on the Tony kart in the 5:02. But still a few more drivers to await for, as they will cross the line very, very shortly. And Hannes Morin makes his way through the final hairpin on the circuit. Across the little hump that takes them onto the final double right-hander. Will Hannes Morin improve from 6th position? Mahacek goes P5. Hannes Morin retains 6th position. Paul Louveau does not improve. So the times from the first session are the quickest based on provisional aggregate qualifying results. So Ragnar Veres will be on our pole sitter for DD2. Michael Becker for DD2 Masters, but Florian Breitenbach with a 49.097 second lap time takes the top time in the session, ahead of the two Bezel brothers, Jakob in the 4:11 and Peter Bezel, the points leader, rounding out the top 3, covered by 0.92 of a second. Mika Metz could have factored in the top 3, but was 5 one-thousandths adrift. The top 4 covered by just over a tenth. Daniel Mahacek, Hannes Morin, Mark Bartels, Manuel Tenschat, Fabian Bock, Leon Arndt round out the top 10, covered by 4/10. It was close, but not close enough for Paul Louveau, who is in 11th in this session, but did not take the top time in DD2 Masters, with Michael Becker taking that by just a tenth of a second. Robert Schopian, Jiri Matacek, Johan Andersson, Christophe Capitan, Nico Jörg, and Dennis Thiem. Well, Dennis Thiem didn't even really get going, unfortunately. No lap time set by the 4:54, but Nico Jörg rounds out the 16 strong, covered by just over 8.5 tenths of a second. But now we're going to have a really nice little chat here, aren't we? There's a forthcoming interview where I spoke with Ferdinand earlier on today, which will be coming on the social media channels. But you're, I think, one of only a handful of people, I believe, along with Bradley Barrett, amongst others, Luca Vlerma, that have raced both have either driven or raced Project C20 and Project Thunder. Now, obviously, the ribcage is probably still feeling a little bit battered from the G-forces going through the corners here. But how did you find it overall after the sessions that you did today?
It's really cool. I mean, the last time I drove a go-kart was obviously last year in the previous generation. I think I had to get used to a go-kart in the beginning, to be honest, because it was so fast. I was like wheel spinning out of the pit lane, and it totally took me by surprise, which is wicked. But then it just very quickly became natural again. You know, you just get in, you're focusing on your brake points, missing your brake points, braking too early, powering, noticing that I'm getting lazy with my arms, noticing I'm lazy with the steering, so I'm getting tired very quickly, you know, trying to make sure that I'm being accurate. Following some of the guys out there, it's just absolutely rapid, and the accuracy always shocks me about how you nail every single apex, every single braking point. And I was like, man, you know, I'm supposedly supposed to be a pretty good racing driver winning Le Mans, but these guys are just so accurate. I need to get my training going again. I need to get back into go-kart more often. I need to get everything sharp again, because when you're in a big heavy car on big circuits, you have other things that you need to focus on. But accuracy is still something that's so important to going quick, and these guys are just absolutely on point with that stuff. And so I was just spending my time between sessions analyzing the data, like, okay, why am I losing on I got an apex every lap, and I just was missing it every third, you know, I was getting it maybe every third lap. Yeah. So the go-karts are super accurate, super nice to drive, fast, enjoyable, and just nice to get back in a go-kart.
Well, coming into this round, there is we had a really good round at Mulsanne last time out. Theo Kakati from the United Arab Emirates will represent that country and himself at the Bahrain International Karting Circuit between the 11th and the 18th of December, having won the weekend at Mulsanne. However, this weekend we have 2 further tickets to give away for the e-kart Grand Finals, and one of which is for the driver that wins the championship. So there's points on offer this weekend. We also have a second ticket to give away, so through the cooperation with BRP Rotax. So one for the weekend winner and one for the points winner at the end of the season. And the driver that really is primed in pole position for that is Elish Spiezio from the United States, who is currently second in the standings. But a lot of drivers are doing double duty in this. And what's more, there is the Dash for Cash. This is a bit of an incentive courtesy of BRP Rotax that we've got drivers actually running as teams of two. So we've got Zenderua and Johan Andersson running together. We've got Hannes Morin and Bradley Barrett running with the Sodi Vitesse crew. Sodi Vitesse, which are the UK importers of Sodi Kart, run by Mark Barrett and his family. We've got some returning drivers as well that competed last time. We've also got one of the drivers who's currently in the top four going into the Deutsche Elektrokart Meisterschaft finale at Mulsen next week. Finland's Aleksi Jelava, who is one of four drivers that is in the mix for the title next week, but has decided to give it an opportunity to drive here as well. Lawrence Seifried, also one doing double duty. Good to see Markus Radny back in the paddock along with his father Stefan. So they're also trying their very, very best. And now, Ferdinand, just really a question from my side with regards to the boost function. Now, we can see that as I see that as both an attacking and a defensive countermeasure, but here in qualifying, the strategy is going to be really crucial with that boost button, isn't it?
I think if you're able to get your tyres in the right window and make sure that you can do it in one lap, so get your tyres in the right window and then prepare for a single lap, there is an opportunity to go for 2 boost activations in one lap. It's going to be neck and neck if it's actually efficient, because you'd have to save one coming out of the last corner and use it out of turn 2, out of the hairpin. And you could possibly gain some time with that and then use it obviously at the end of the lap onto the main straight. But if I were out there right now, I think I'd just be focusing on getting all the other corners ready. The boost function gives you a little bit, but I think the most time you can really make well is in your driving. So getting into a groove, making sure that you use the peak of the tyre, because the tyre is a bit peaky. You've got that extra bit of grip on the first 4 or 5 laps, and kind of activate it, use it. Get all your apexes right. Make sure you're braking late, powering early. Make sure the cart's nice and smooth. And you also notice very quickly if you've got your tyre pressures right, and also especially in the heat that we've got right now, the tyre pressures are so important.
I mean, it's like chemistry 101. You get cold tyres, it reduces the tyre pressures. You get hot weather conditions, it expands the rubber, and it sort of causes a bit of a different feel in terms of traction, braking, going through in the corner, whether it's going to give you some snap-on oversteer or some understeer, respectively. But yeah, I mean, it's quite interesting that how Rotax they've committed to the future on this. They see this as a real good way of introducing, I think, people not just to karting, but I think just electric motorsport, which has sort of grown in leaps and bounds, obviously with what has been happening with the hybrid technology at Le Mans LMDHs. You've got Formula E, which is now a full single-seater electric championship. You've now got other championships that are looking to do electric drivetrains. I mean, it really just shows how much, when you look at it, that it's not just about the motorsport side of things, but when BRP Rotax are committed to looking at all their other product lines to also facilitate that, just really sort of bring something new, something interesting where you can have just as much fun as an internal combustion engine.
I hate to compare, because I think it's not right to compare. I think Rotax are trying to move forwards. They're thinking about not today, they're thinking about 10 years' time, 15 years' time. What are we going to be doing then? I don't think anybody in their right mind will say we'll be doing exactly the same thing that we're doing now. Go-karts with combustion engines have changed over the last 15 years, fundamentally. And, okay, now it's a very radical change, and people will like it or not like it. But in the end, the change is natural. And Rotax is just somebody that's gone out on the limb here and really invested largely into it, really using this as a proper testing ground for future developments. And I think that they're really jumping on board what motorsport should be, which is an innovative sport. Motorsport has always been something that at heart and at nature has been something that moves the automotive industry forward. And that's what Rotax is really doing here. They are not out at just in for the bucks. They're thinking about the future. They're thinking about what are we going to be doing forwards. And I think they should be. They are a role model for that. No matter if you like it or you don't like it. I think that before one takes a judgment, one should have a go in it, because you'll be positively surprised. I'm confident in that. And not to judge too soon either. You know, of course, everybody's used to certain things, to your senses, the sound, you know, the way that it moves is obviously different. And you get used to it and you change your senses and you improve. So I'm envious of these guys going out on track now. I wish I was doing it myself.
I bet you are. I bet you are. I mean, the thing is now we've had one of the drivers, Arvid Rosen, has just decided to literally floor the throttle. And now you thought that an internal combustion engine coming out of the pre-grid was fast. Well, literally, Arvid Rosen had that thing lighted up and nearly did a pair of 11s on the pre-grid. But a 5-minute qualifying session will decide their respective heats for tomorrow. 3 in total. And having first come across Project T20 at the Grand Finals at Sarno, seeing Daryl Smith, and also have to give props to not just him, but also to Steve Chapman with the technical support side of things. And as you can see that drivers are trying to jockey for position. It's getting a bit close. They're going through one of the right-handers. And these respective colour liveries, there are 2 tents, 2 awnings. There's now that just goes to show how things get very, very close. Now that was Lawrence Seyfried, I believe. And there was a little bit of contact with one of the drivers a little bit further down. Didn't really catch the number of the other driver. That just shows how when you're trying to jockey for position, something can sometimes go awry, and it nearly went awry big time right there. So 3.5 minutes to go. It's a very different noise to get used to, but having commentated on this since the DEKM joined us, I think it was the year before. It was actually last year. It's been a refreshing change to see something so technologically advanced in terms of electric drivetrains, and they are absolutely jockeying for position. It's like we've already gone into the first heat. We've forgotten about qualifying. It's just like, let's just get the elbows out. But Arvid Rosen has set an initial benchmark of a 49.372. Alice Spiezia in the 711 goes second on a 49.873. Zenderua, who has won as a guest driver in the DEKM and actually was at this very same track, he goes provisional pole on a 48.996 as we're halfway through the session. And it's even close here in Project T20. Johan Andersson is rounding out the top 6, and Arvid Rosen is 3 1,000ths behind. Hannes Morin is 7 100ths off of Victor Nielsen from Denmark. Zenderua is the first one to break into the 48, so 48.996. And top 5 covered by just over 3 tenths. Bradley Barrett, who actually back in Sarno in 2019 was 3rd overall, and the final round of the DEKM that season, headed to Sarno for the Grand Finals. Marcus Landin goes 8th. Alexi Alava goes up into P2 and is 82 thousandths off of Zenderua. And the slipstream along with the boost function is going to be rather crucial here, because if you get a good run coming out of the final corner, you can activate the boost function there and really go pedal to the metal going through the chicane and into the fast right-hander off of turn 3. And they're absolutely... I mean, these karts are not light by any stretch of the imagination. And I think out of all the drivers that I've commentated on these particular karts, Elis Spiezia in the last 2 seasons on his own has pulled the car out of the grass or out of the muddy dirt and got himself back out on track. And Spiezia is just a teenager, but he's decided to come through and race over here full time. So just over a minute to go. No one has gotten close to Zenderua with a 48.996. So there is a ticket up for grabs for the weekend winner here at Wackersdorf. But then also the points are going to be rather crucial. Elis Spiezia took a win in the second final back at Mulsen in July. And he's had 2 wins on this very particular kart this season. So he has improved significantly. But Zendrua still leads the way. It's 86 thousandths between the top three drivers. So Drua, Jalava, Nielsen. So Slovenia from Finland, from Denmark. Then it's Sweden. 5 different nations in the top 5. Ran it out by Hannes Morin and Bradley Barrett. No one seems to be improving at the moment. Some drivers deciding to call it time on the session. yeah. It's just like Johan Andersson being from Sweden originally, and they're still running under Slovenian licenses. It's really, really funny. Like, we've got an Australian running under a British license here as well, Sean Butcher in senior Rotax. But the checkered flag is out for the session. That is it for qualifying practice for the final round of the season. And we just wait to see who's going to cross the stripe, because it looks like we might have a couple of drivers doing so, whereas others have decided to call time. Elis Spiezia will provisionally start in P9 on the grid for the first of 3 8-minute plus additional lap heats tomorrow. And that really has curtailed the session. So Zendrua is on provisional pole for tomorrow's 3 heats with a 48.996 second lap time on that particular occasion. Alexei Jalava rounds out the top 2. Victor Nielsen 0.086 behind. Hannes Morin, Bradley Barrett, Johan Andersson, Arvid Rosen, Markus Radny, Elis Spiezia. Well, as I say that, hold the phone. Nikola Tosic just went pole and did a 48.678. I thought someone might be holding that boost back in reserve, and the 717 definitely showcased that. But we'll just wait for everyone to get themselves into the pits. So Victor Nielsen rounds out the top 4. And that really is it for the session. But that was a great lap from the 717, wasn't it there, Ferdinand?
What, do you think that there's a chance that he might have somehow used 2 boosts on the lap, like I was speaking earlier, and suggesting them not to do? And now maybe the pole sitter has actually done what I said in opposite. So I feel a bit silly there. But we'll see on the data what he did there. That's super crazy that he just pulled out the bag. 3/10. I mean, that's amazing.
And on his final lap in qualifying, I mean, that's where it all counts. And that really ends qualifying practice for the 4th round of the Rotax Max Euro Trophy season, the final round of the championship at Wackersdorf. Ferdinand, thank you very much for sitting alongside me. It's been a pleasure to see you again, and wishing you all the very best of luck for the season.
Yeah, likewise. I really enjoy being here and in the commentary booth rather than a go-kart. It's also quite fun, but to be honest, unfortunately for you, I apologize, but I would rather be in a go-kart. Nothing against you.
Hey, no offence taken at all, my good friend, but that is it from us. We will see you tomorrow morning as Heats Day really kickstarts things into high gear, whether it's hitting the boost button on a Project E20, whether it's shifting into the high gear on DD2, or you're simply going all out direct drive. Join us tomorrow morning as we will get things underway. As we have champions to crown, we have tickets to give away for the grand finals. Join us tomorrow where it really gets hot and heated under the collar. Thanks for watching.